Good morning. How are you? This is Michelle Love with Dynamic Change, and you are listening to KPCALP in Petaluma. I hope your morning is going extremely well. It's very interesting, kind of balmy weather outside, and you are listening to Dynamic Change. And this show, what I do with this show is my background is I'm a certified wellness coach, self-defense instructor, and I have a degree in psychology, and I've been also a certified fitness trainer forever. So I have a very diverse background working in the wellness field in many different ways. And so what I like to bring to this show is basically dissecting certain emotional and psychological patterns, how they sit within your body somatically. Somatically means your experience of how you feel in your body. So our emotions are stored in our bodies. It can affect your health, and stress can affect your health. So rather than being tortured by our patterns that live in our body, I love to share information of ways that we can release these patterns, that we can process old traumas, that can give you some tools to move through it, to seek help. And so I just give tons of information and examples of how to process stuff out of your body, many psychological and emotional tools, and then ways to focus your intention and ideas and your whole emotional path to develop new, healthier patterns so you can be happy in your life, you can attract all these amazing things that you would like in your life, and live in a healthier direction so we can have healing within ourselves. And I really believe the more healed we are within ourselves, the more we help bring that healing to society. And I think that is extremely important. So for more information on me and all the services I provide and classes, you can go to my website, which is dynamicchange.wellness.com. And you can also email me. So basically, if you go to the website, you'll find my email. So if you have things you want me to bring up in future shows, or if there's something that's been challenging in your life or something you want me to elaborate more on, I love to approach things in a very creative angle. And so I'm a very outside the box kind of thinker. So I think that can be really helpful to have a fresh approach, another way to maybe approach it, another way to look at it, and having tools. So if you want to email me, my email is dcwellness88@gmail.com. Okay, well, thank you for joining me today. And so what I'm going to talk about today, I'm so excited. It's a big topic, guilt. And how much do we hold on to guilt? And does it serve a purpose to hold on to guilt other than to kind of bog us down? And so today I would like to talk about how to process guilt, some of the motivations behind holding on to guilt. And I think we all do it. I think this is a really, really common, if not everybody, challenging, I guess, just the narcissists, right? They don't feel guilty picking on the narcissists. But for the rest of us, right? Like, it's just really the amount of judgment that we turn inward on ourselves can be a little bit of a torture. So I say let's let ourselves off the hook. It doesn't serve a purpose. So guilt, I believe that often we hold on to guilt because there can be a couple different reasons. We feel like if we are punishing ourselves with the guilt, that It can make us feel better about ourselves, about something that we felt like was a huge mistake in life. And the unfortunate thing, I don't know if it's unfortunate, because we do learn from our lives. There's so much value if we can switch our focus to, okay, I went through this particular experience. It was really challenging. If we can look at it as just a learning experience, because I really don't think we can get through life without having a certain amount of trauma, and just there's gonna be experiences that are unpleasant. There's gonna be decisions we make that we're not gonna love, and later we're gonna be like, wow, I wish I would have known better and could have done that differently. But I think what is realistic and honest about life is that we learn as we go. We learn as we go, and the way we learn is by making mistakes. The way we learn is by sometimes making big mistakes. And if we judge ourselves and we feel, carry guilt around it, I think it gets in the way of the learning. It gets in the way of better experiences. So if we hold on to guilt, if we have something that we judge really harshly, it can create this like emotional block within our being. So our heart can be carrying this heaviness. Sometimes we carry it in other parts of our body, but I think it's really easy for us to understand how we can carry it on our heart. And so if we're carrying this burden of something that we judge harshly, we don't feel good about, and carry that forward, we are not able to fully get to the other side of that learning experience. And when we learn something fully, what's so amazing about it is that, for one thing, you don't have to make the mistake again, which is like fantastic, right? So there's no more guilt with that particular situation, hopefully. So that's a huge gift. I mean, we're not here to just have a miserable life. We are here to learn. We are here to enjoy life, to share the wonderful things about ourselves with other wonderful people, to work on being the best person we can, to be loving, to enjoy ourselves, and spread this joy. And if we are carrying guilt, it is going to get in the way of that expression, and that would be a total shame, right? Because let's say it's hard for us to not judge ourselves, but if we are looking, let's say, at a child, and we are appreciating this wonderful person that maybe maybe we gave birth to, maybe we're the father of, maybe it's our nephew or niece, and it is such a gift, a child. And I think we can all recognize that, like how fantastic they are, how they make us laugh, how they bring us joy, how they melt our heart, how they help us get past wounds, emotional wounds within ourselves, because they open our hearts in new ways that we didn't think was possible. And how beautiful that is, right? So if we can look at this beautiful, beautiful child, would we wish guilt on them? Would we wish them to hold on to these things that are painful and judge themselves? If we were talking to this child that we adore, would we want them to take on misery, maybe in ways that we have? So I love to use these analogies because it takes us outside of ourselves. And so if we look at someone we adore and we cherish, and we see how pure they are, we see how joyful they are, we see how they believe in magic and anything can happen, and those are really powerful emotions, positivity. They just make you joyful just looking at it. And it feels like a gift just to be able to experience this beauty that this child is expressing. Now, would we want to hamper that and extinguish that in any way? I don't think we would. I think anyone that is close to a child and is raising a child, even when days are frustrating, when we don't feel great about our parenting day, or we're feeling down on ourselves that day, which hopefully we don't have days like that, but some days are more challenging than others. But when we look at that child and we look at that purity and we look at that joy, I think we all inside are striving to have that experience within our lives. To me, the children are very wise. They are a gift. And when we look at them, it's like, I want to figure out how to emulate that, because they haven't grown up and gotten corrupted by the stresses of life. And so I feel like the goal is to find a way to understand that way of relating, that childlike, pure joy, pure happiness that is not jaded, is not kind of corrupted by negative experiences that we go through that tend to stick to us, that we don't find a way to move all the way through it. And so children are a great, great teacher. And so if we pay attention to this powerful teacher of this pure joy and happiness, and we put this teaching towards guilt. Okay, so holding on to guilt is not going to help change what happened that we feel guilty about. It will never change it. And so I'm going to make up a story, and I'm going to do mother's guilt because I'm a mom, and I do think it can be a really intense guilt that women sometimes will go through. And because I think the expectations of being a mother is just really loaded. And I think that has been a societal thing. I think that has been projected onto women. And I think women themselves have also, because the mother's heart is so well intended and wants so powerfully and so deeply to be able to just give their child 150%. And so that can be an extreme concept to carry around. So I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to make up a story. Let's say my imaginary person today, I'm going to come up with the name Sue. So Sue is a mother of, let's say, a 6-year-old kid, and their kid's name is Jason. And Sue is just, let's say Sue is a single mom, and Sue's been raising Jason. And let's just say that maybe something happened where the father of the kid, of Jason, actually had died really young. And so maybe their father had passed on. And so Sue has become the single mom trying to do 2 roles. The father has passed, and she has this guilt around her son, Jason, growing up without a father. And that's not her fault. And there was nothing she could do about it. Let's just say there was a freak accident, and he just died really young. Let's say a car wreck. Let's just say a car wreck. And the father died, and that was not only really hard on Sue, but then they just felt so guilty, like my child is growing up without this father, and then Sue often feels like she comes up short because trying to be two parents is impossible. And there's nothing wrong with Jason growing up with that particular void, because life does have those experiences of just loss, of grief, of, people being vacant in life, and it can make you really strong, compassionate, empathic towards other people that have gone through that. And yes, it's extremely painful, but there are these lessons that open up your heart in these ways that you can, when you heal that, you have such a deep level of understanding of that experience for other people. And it can be a powerful healing experience when you work through it and get to the other side. You can have a level of understanding that you would never have if you hadn't have gone through that. So my imaginary person I made up today is Sue. And again, you're listening to Dynamic Change. You're listening to KPCA-LP in Petaluma, a free-range radio station. The name of this show is Dynamic Change. My name is Michelle Love. I'm a certified wellness coach with a background in psychology. I have a degree in psychology. And I'm discussing, making up this an imaginary people about the topic of guilt and how we hold on to guilt. And so my imaginary people I made up today is Sue. She is a single mom. She has a 6-year-old son named Jason. The father had died in a car accident. So Sue is raising this kid, Jason, on her own, and she often feels really guilty that Jason doesn't have a father. And I brought up the idea of mother's guilt, and I bring that up again because I think within society it's really projected on females a lot, and I do think that women often place it on themselves. And I have been a single mother, and I've been a stepmother. I have worked with kids in mental health, and so I've had a lot of opportunities to mother in many different ways. Mother kids that didn't have that did have that vacant parent. Mother kids that were coming from complicated family situations and were working on healing. And I've given birth to my own kid that I adore. And so it can be a challenging role, and I think mothers really want to be the best they can be, and sometimes they expect themselves to be perfect, and there's just no one's perfect. And so to let ourselves off the hook, if we hold on to guilt, so if Sue, my imaginary person, is holding on to guilt that she feels that her son Jason is unnecessarily going through pain because the father had died in a car accident. So if we look at it another way, if Sue holds on to this guilt, not only may it get in the way of her being able to be happy. So when we're not happy, we're carrying guilt, the emotion takes up space. It takes up space in your psyche, in your mind. It takes up space in your emotions, and your emotions live in your body. So this can make your heart feel heavy. What this can do is, when Sue is around their son Jason, that it can get in the way of them being present with their kid. It can emotionally get in the way of them feeling the highest amount of joy with their kid and being able to see their kid without seeing Jason through a lens of kind of this negative experience. So that's a pretty powerful idea. So what does guilt do? Does it create a lens of how we see things, of how we're able to receive positivity, of what we are projecting out? Would the lens create seeing her son Jason as disempowered, as being a victim, as she's never good enough as a parent, because her lens is creating this lens of guilt, is creating all these different ideas and emotional baggage that gets in the way of just having joy and being able to be 100% accessible emotionally to your kid. Is it going to create a block? Is it going to create emotional distance? That's another thing. So guilt can cause emotional shutdown, right? Because it's like this self-punishing kind of experience. So if there is this shutdown of allowing yourself to feel worthy, to feel lovable, to feel like a good mother, like a good parent, so then you're emotionally shut down. And wow. So this filter, yucky filter, right? Really yuck. I mean, it can create a lot of stuff that is so unnecessary because it's not helping anybody. Not only is it hindering and hurting Sue to carry this guilt, it's going to live in her body. It can cause physical harm after many, many years. This stress, this is the stuff that causes us to have heart attacks and strokes, in my opinion. And I have worked with, I've worked in physical therapy. I have, with a fitness trainer, I've worked with chronic pain, injury. I've worked in mental health. I've worked with, people that have gone through trauma. This stuff lives in our bodies, and it can physically manifest at some point. So it's harmful to hold on to things. It doesn't feel good. I mean, if you really tune into what does guilt feel like in your body, it's painful. It is so painful. So when we hold on to this and it creates all these like reactions like dominoes, right? And these filters, these ideas, you're going to feel it in your body. So if you were to really tune in, if Sue, my imaginary person, were to really tune into how does my body feel when I hold this guilt that I feel like I need to carry in order to maybe be a good mom. Like maybe Sue believes if I hold on to feeling guilty that my son Jason's father died in this car accident, if I hold on to this, maybe this will make me a better parent because I'll be extra vigilant. I'll be extra sensitive to my kids' needs. I'll work extra hard to be the father role as well. I mean, what does all these dynamics really do? Do they cause Sue to hold physical pain in their body, which can stress their heart out and raise their blood pressure? Do they cause Sue to work too hard emotionally with their kid to where they never feel good enough and they always feel kind of bad about their efforts because it's an impossible situation that can never be accomplished? Is that what is going on? Does it cause Sue to feel shut down emotionally in ways where she's then not able to be emotionally accessible to her kid Jason and be emotionally present? Does that help anything? No. Does Jason emotionally and subconsciously feel and pick up on the guilt and wonder what that's about? Kids are so sensitive, often extremely empathic. They feel our pain. So how is Jason going to process all that? So there's like this dynamic, this torture, this judgment that Sue is placing on themselves. And rather, we could look at it, Sue could look at it like, I am so grateful that I have such a big heart, that I am going to love myself through this hard time of being a single parent, and the father died, which was really painful. Let's say Sue really loved her partner, right? So she actually needs to use that love, that understanding, that gentleness, that compassion to appreciate the complexity of the situation and reach out for help and support from the people in her life. Maybe she has a wonderful mother and a sister, and maybe she needs a support group and therapy. She needs to redirect, let herself grieve and go through all that, but redirect that energy to support herself rather than feeling guilty, like, oh my God, there's this huge deficit. Yes, of course there's pain, but she could find a wonderful therapist for her kid. She could, buy books. There's books. There's wonderful children's group books that like talk about, when an animal dies, when a parent dies. There's stuff out there that can help, and they can read it together and they can cry together and talk about, wow, it's really painful. Let's say, let's talk about how it is to lose a dad, because it's painful, but Dad wouldn't want us to be sad about his death forever. He loved us so much. He still loves us. I believe the soul goes on, however you want to express that to your child. But do we want to make it into a bad thing? Like, do we want to have it always be a bad thing? Or we can say it's a painful thing, but we can move through it in life and we can hold on to the good. Can we remember, let's talk about all the good things about Dad. Let's talk about all these good things. Hold on to the good things. Let's every night talk about the amazing, wonderful things about your dad. And let me tell you stories about your dad. Let's light a candle for your dad. Let's find a way to hold on to the good. And then you can even talk with your kid, how you can talk about the challenges around it. And just say, is it painful when you see the other kids be picked up at school by their dad and you don't have a dad? So, what we can do with that is let's, the mom, maybe she can just reach out to, we don't want to fill that void, with need, like fill that void with like the surrogate father in a dysfunctional way. Because, a lot of times I think when we're trying to fill a void, or all the time, when we're trying to fill a void, you're going to fill it up with something that's not healthy if we're not careful, right? So maybe Sue can look at that and say, rather than feel bad about that, feel guilty and everything, we're going to turn it into this healing experience. So she could look for, maybe she has a brother, and that's perfect. He can be kind of the surrogate father figure because she has a wonderful relationship with her brother. Or she could, maybe she has best friends and they have these really lovely husbands, and they could be like the surrogate uncle and say, would you mind picking up my kid from school? And just doing that for me, maybe somewhat regular. Maybe they just have that flexibility in their schedule. But things like that where you can talk about it. Sue could talk about it with Jason. They could be creative. How can we create a situation that kind of fills up that experience with something positive? And they continue to talk about it rather than holding the mom, my imaginary person, Sue, holding on to this guilt. So she can find creative ways to kind of solve the situation, because life has pain like that. There's death, things are going to go on. But if she carries this filter of it's all up to her, she's going to create more blocks to not only herself, but between her and her kid. And it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't change anything. It can be painful for both her and Jason if she's not emotionally available. So guilt is not going to make us feel like better people. It's just not. And it creates more harm. It's almost like a self-harm thing. I think it really is. I think guilt, when we place guilt on ourselves, it's actually self-harm. So I want to say that again. When we place guilt on ourselves, I believe we're actually practicing self-harm. So, what is a positive, constructive way to handle guilt is to learn from it and to heal it, let it go, and realize that it doesn't serve a healthy purpose. So some ways to move through guilt are to journal about it. I find intellectually, for my mind to kind of move past something that I found really difficult, if I just have to go over it. So rather than carry this guilt for the rest of your life, which is, in my opinion, self-harm, we can process it. So starting with your mind, you can journal and say, okay, this was really challenging for me to process. I really did not feel good about this particular thing, whatever it is, okay? So journal it. Then read up on the topic. Read up on the psychology behind the scenario. So what I would recommend to Sue is, seek out a therapist that is a grief therapist. Seek out a book about the psychology behind grief, behind losing, a partner. And just look up the psychology around grief. Because when you can break down the psychology of it, and that's why I talk about breaking down psychology concepts in this show, is when we break it down, it allows you to let yourself off the hook. Like, it gives you understanding. So rather than emotionally feeling like you have to carry this burden that is not helping, but we feel like, if I carry this, I'll feel like a better person. Somehow I'll make up for what I chose to do. Sometimes it's that, okay? So this doesn't apply to Sue in this scenario, my imaginary person, but I think sometimes with guilt, we feel like, if I feel guilty, then I'm serving this penance because I made this terrible decision. Even if we made a bad decision, okay, even if, anybody, I'm just saying with anybody, I'm not going to make up a scenario for this, but even if we made a bad choice and it ended up hurting someone we loved, does it heal any of it to burden ourselves and the dynamic of the other person, the way we're able to emotionally relate to that person by holding on to the guilt? Because again, the filter of my example that I made for Sue, the single mom, was, so when we feel bad about a choice we made and we feel like it hurt somebody, when we hold on to that guilt, it creates an emotional block to even healing that with that person. What would be healing is allowing ourselves to bravely admit the mistake and tell that person, write a letter, whatever you can do, and say, I just want to let you know, I really regret making this choice and this behavior and how I feel it must have affected you. And allow yourself to speak from the heart and say, I'm really sorry. And I'm going to know that next time I come to that particular situation in life, I'm going to handle it differently because I learned from that. I learned that I could have done it like this instead. How powerful is that? Oh, wow, you let that person feel acknowledged and feel seen and feel lovable and valuable and lovable enough for someone to process that experience. I mean, that is so powerful. Like, they feel acknowledged and heard and loved and appreciated by owning the mistake. And then you get to move through the guilt and let yourself off the hook by saying, okay, I'm going to do something with this. Don't hold on to it. I'm going to do something with this feeling of guilt and self-judgment. So rather than self-harm, where you hold on to it, hold it into your body, and do nothing with it that is going to involve learning, that is going to involve deciding, letting yourself off the hook, forgiving yourself, and saying, okay, I decided instead to look at how can I learn about the situation. Look for a self-help book around it. If you go to therapy, bring it to your therapist. Maybe if there's a group around it, but find a way to process that information. I often tell people, think about if it was your best friend that you really, really, really cherish, and they brought this scenario to you, would you judge them as harshly as you judge yourself? And because when we judge ourselves, it's not helping. It is harmful when we overdo. Sometimes it's good to be like, well, to self-analyze. I think that's very healthy, but do it in a way that's still loving and kind, and do it with an intention of, I want to learn from this, move forward from it, and handle it better next time, rather than holding on to it and whipping yourself for it. I really screwed up and I'm just going to punish myself forever so I can eventually feel like a good person because that was a big screw up. Okay, so it just doesn't work. That's the honest truth is it doesn't work. When we punish ourselves, it doesn't work. When you try to punish yourself with guilt, it doesn't work. So not only are you hurting yourself, not only is it self-harm, but it gets projected out towards other people, and that can create emotionally painful dynamics. Because again, we're not fully present. When we have guilt in our heart and in our psyche, in our emotional body, there creates this emotional block where we can't even 100% share ourselves, because that part of ourselves is shut down. So not only are we not fully accessible to the people that we love, but we are hurting ourselves, but we are, and it's not ever going to work or actually accomplish good. So finding a way to let it go. You can process about it, you can journal about it, seek therapy about it, but just look more towards the learning and really just think, how can I learn from this? And clearing up everything we can around it, apologizing to people, owning it. I think owning it's so powerful. And so if I go back to Sue, my imaginary person I made up, my single mom, Sue, like she could really look at, wow, I have all this guilt as a mom because I feel so bad that the father of my child died. And I'm raising this kid without a father, and I have this guilt, and no matter what I do, I can't make up for it. That realization is so powerful. It doesn't matter what Sue does. It's still going to be this painful thing, but it doesn't have to be this thing that can't be healed. They can work. She can put towards that energy rather than holding on to guilt, she can put that energy towards being 100% open and accessible for her kid and focusing on solutions. Like my story of, she can ask, her brother, she has this beautiful, wonderful, kind-hearted brother, I need you to step up as uncle because my kid's father died and it's hard. And maybe she needs to ask for more help, because if she tries to do everything out of guilt and is overextending all the time, she's torturing herself and it's too much of a burden. Mother's guilt, let's throw it out the window. Ladies, father's guilt, I'm sure, is there too. So let's just let that go. Being hard on ourselves causes us, our physical bodies, to break down. It causes us to emotionally shut down. It causes stress in your mind. It causes us to clench our teeth. It causes wrinkles. All of it's just not fun, right? We don't need that. You let it go. We should have wrinkles from laughing all the time, from joy. We should have, just these amazing days where we can just love and appreciate our kid and show them how to love and appreciate themselves by striving for that every moment within ourselves. That's what's powerful in life. So Sue could instead say, okay, I'm going to find a support group for grief. And then every day we're going to watch a funny movie, because laughter heals our hearts, and just finding ways to laugh at ourselves, to just have joy. She can ask for help. She can ask her brother to kind of step in and say, I just need that male energy, that male support. And if you and your wife can kind of come around more, just so we have your energy here. And I love your wife. She's so kind, and I just need support. So Sue can look for, how can I find support? How can I find the presence of the male energy in a very healthy way, rather than, dating to fill up the void? That's never good, right? Sue has to heal all those voids, to be ready to have a really healthy mate in there. She doesn't want to fill it up in an unhealthy way. So letting go of this guilt and filling it up with joy, filling it up with emotional connection, honestly talking to their kids, maybe every night they read the book about the grief until the grief is gone, and say, what, let's say, let's talk. Is there any sadness? We're going to read the book, and then maybe we'll write a letter to Dad every night and say, we love you so much. Thank you for being in our life as long as you were. Thank you for watching us, as an angel on the other side, whatever you believe in. And we send you so much love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to light this candle to symbolize our love every night for you. And then we're going to talk about, what can we do to feel this joy, to feel this connection with our love, with our feeling like bringing in happiness, to attract this connection with, kind of the masculine energy of the father. Now, I'm going to say this for everybody. The light has been flashing on the phone. Now, this is going to be funny because I don't know how to answer the phone for the show. But if you're trying to call me on the phone for the show, I'm going to remember today to ask the person that helps me understand all the techie stuff for the show, because I've never really opened up the phone for questions. So if you're trying to call me, thank you for trying to call, and I am going to figure that out. So to finish my example is just noticing, because today you're listening to Dynamic Change on AKPCALP in Petaluma. My name is Michelle Love. This show, Dynamic Change, I am talking about emotional and psychological processes that we go through in life, and I'm talking about guilt. And I make up my imaginary people every week, And today my imaginary names was Sue. She's a single mom, and she's raising her child by herself because the father died. The child's imaginary name is Jason, and he's 6 years old. So I'm talking about how can we move through guilt? How can we let it go? And so what we'll do to wrap up this whole process around guilt is, again, guilt is not going to make you feel like a better person. It's not going to change the past. If we rather look at experiences that we wish we could have done differently and better, it's more powerful, empowering, and going to help you in life and everyone you come in contact with to look at it as, what can I do to learn about this situation that I don't feel good about? What can I do to find information that help me learn about it, whether it's a book, whether it's a self-help group, whether I apologize to that person, I write them a letter, I call them up. Maybe I've been holding on, to something for 20 years with somebody, a family member. What would be more healing is to call them up, say, I had this guilt around this thing that happened 20 years ago, and I still feel bad about it, and I don't want to feel bad about it anymore. I love you, and I'm sorry I did that. Wouldn't that be more empowering, more healing, help that person? You could help that person you love by just owning it and then releasing that pain out of your body by apologizing and moving through it, doing an action to move through it, and then develop a plan. And next time, I'm going to handle this better. I could have handled it like this. And then brainstorm, put that energy, as opposed to holding on to something negative like guilt, an emotion that's not productive like guilt, right? That it can create a self-harm experience. Rather, put your energy towards, how could I do that differently next time? And we got to learn to laugh at ourselves, because it's not that serious. And we hold on to things. I've done it. And it only made my heart hurt. It only created a block that pushed away joy I could have had sooner. That's not productive in life. Let's let that go. So, how can we learn to laugh at ourselves and just be like, wow, okay, am I really expecting myself to be perfect? Because no one's perfect. Everyone is learning. And we gotta have some gentleness and compassion and love for ourselves and say, all I need to do is keep focusing on, how can I do this better? And put that energy out. I want to attract the information and the ideas that will help me do this better. So not only am I feeling better about myself, feeling more lovable, attracting better things in my life, because the more positive you are, the more you're going to attract better experiences in your life. And that's super valuable. And we deserve that. And we project out this positivity towards other people, because the focus is not on this, punishing ourselves. The focus is on, how can I do better? And in a good way, like in a loving way, and try to make it a light experience. Because again, I'm going to go back to when you are looking at a child and you see that pure joy, that pure heart energy, that pure positivity that makes your heart just feel, oh, wow, that is overwhelmingly, it's like love. It's like pure love. When you feel that experience, don't you want to be able to generate that love and that expression for that child, for your loved ones, for the people you come across in life? Don't you want to be able to bring that to the world? Okay, well, I hope you said yes, because I do, right? So things like guilt get in the way of that expression. That's like having a big, yucky, gunky storm within yourself that makes you feel yucky. It makes your mind stressed out. It makes you emotionally shut down. It blocks you to having all this beautiful expression, and you want to express 150% of your beautifulness of your heart. So those are my ideas around that. So real quick, I'm going to give you a couple ideas. So with guilt, I've done guided meditations around it, but what I would recommend is imagining the things you feel guilty about. Do some deep breathing and, get feisty. I recommend getting feisty, like determined. And just as you do deep breathing, exhale, imagine pushing out of all your pores the gunk into this big ball. And you can make it a big gunky ball if you want in front of you, right? Like big black ball of yuck. And put it outside of your body. And so imagine this ball of energy in front of you that you've pushed out from your body through your determination, through your feistiness, through, I don't want to carry this anymore, be fed up with it, right? Push it out and then send it love and healing. Send it compassion, send it pink energy for love, or you can draw it. So with art therapy, you could draw just something that's yucky. I love charcoal because you can smear it with your fingers, or even finger painting, right? Just mix all the colors of the finger painting like a little kid, and make it a yucky color. Maybe it ends up being, a putrid color, right? And that's all the yuckiness. And that's very, to me, when you do things that feel very guttural, like finger painting, it's the quality of, doing something tangible, expressing that way. I think that really helps the subconscious process. So you could do it with finger painting, or do something where you symbolically put that somewhere. You can write about it, you could burn it after you write it, just whatever, get it out. And then send it some love. So if you did a drawing around it, you could, do finger painting or whatever, put a bunch of, do charcoal, make it this gross, yucky, scribble, angry, guilty, that was the most horrible thing ever picture, right? And then put something beautiful on top of it. Maybe put some glue, squirt some glue on top of that and put glitter, put flower petals, or go bury it in the backyard, or in a pot, like a flower pot on the porch. Bury it in some dirt and then plant a flower on top. Get creative. Do something to transform it, to shift that emotion, and when you shift that energy, when you do something physical, not only are you making it solid, it's like you're doing something. That physicality creates, it's like creating something very powerful. So releasing guilt, I think, is just a good idea. Letting yourself off the hook. All the mothers, I adore all of you. I adore everybody, but the mothers, let yourself off the hook. Mother's guilt is the worst. Let it go. It serves no one. And judging ourselves doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't serve ourselves. It won't make us into better people. But just with kindness, you can do self-reflection, but then find a way to move towards a positive outcome. It's important that we self-reflect, but not in a way where we're harming ourselves. So make it really differentiate between those two things. I'm very self-analytical myself, but my goal is always to just kind of really honestly learn from my life and my choices and the things I've done, and just to really learn from it and to let go of the pain of it. We don't have to hold pain around it, and then find a way to move forward through it. And I know it's a lot to say. It's not like this doesn't require practice. It does require practice, but this is something worth practicing. I think this is really powerful to work on practicing things that help us feel good within ourselves so we are emotionally as healthy and whole and present as possible in life, so we are bringing our best self to the table. And guilt is just not going to help you. And that's pretty much all I have to say about guilt. I hope you have enjoyed that, and I hope it's given you some new ways to look at guilt. And I'm going to tell you about one of the shows we have here at KPCA LP in Petaluma. And this other show is called The Nonviolent Movement. And I'm always for nonviolence. I love that. It's on Tuesdays at 10:30 to 11 a.m., hosted by Michael Nagler. The Nonviolent Moment with Michael Nagler is a show dedicated to the process of nonviolent transformation of humanity and our societies. I think that sounds really powerful. I think that reaching towards nonviolence in life is just beneficial for everybody, and I'm grateful for people that do shows like that and talk about the positive things in the world. And I know the world can be stressful, right? Society can be stressful, and I think it's really helpful for us to look for the happiness, to create happiness, to create moments where we can laugh at ourselves and laugh at anything you can. And I've always been rather good at laughing at myself and laughing at life, because if we look for the humor in life, not only are you going to feel lighter within yourself, but it allows you to let go of some of the stress. So as a wellness coach, I do often look at what are simple ways that we can let go of the heavier feelings. And often I'll listen to comedians. If I'm realizing I'm getting too heavy, I will put a comedian channel that I can listen to, whether it's the TV or through my phone in the car, or even going to a live comedian show, but finding ways to just find laughter and joy. And I will often I'll replay things that have happened in my life that I found really quite hysterical. Maybe it's something my kid did, and I'm like, I just love that my kid did that. That was so funny. But I'll replay it in my head. How can we just enjoy things we have gone through throughout our day that are positive, things that really tickled us in a way that it's great to hold on to those things and make those thoughts bigger than the negative things that have happened. Whenever I feel plagued by something stressful, I try to create a thought that's kind of the opposite and make the opposite positive thought bigger, so big, and I'll just focus on that until the negative one goes away. Very, very helpful. So again, thank you for joining me today. My name is Michelle Love. This show is called Dynamic Change. Today we talked about guilt and how to look at it differently and move through it and let it go and not carry it within our lives and within our body. You can go to my website, dynamicchangelwellness.com, and you can email me through my website. Please email me there. And if you want to communicate, and also I upload all my shows every week to my YouTube channel, which is Michelle Love with Dynamic Change and Wellness. Michelle Love with Dynamic Change and Wellness. You can see all the shows I've ever done. They all focus around wellness and psychological patterns and how to create healthy patterns. And you can also go to my website to see all the classes I teach, the wellness coaching I do. And I hope everyone is having a wonderful day and learning to laugh more and more every moment and learning to enjoy the wonderful people in their lives more and more and more. Take good care of yourself. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now. Have a good day.